Oh yeah, I love Frontier too. It's not a good map, but it's
I
fun.
I wish the cart was different. That's my only complaint.
Really?
Yeah,
I died
it's
in
a
the cart
fine
too
it's a
often.
fine map. I just don't like the cart.
I think that's fair. So, Broccoli just made a video on the quick fix. So, in terms of like making videos, I have a question for you. So, like, I know
Mhm.
you. What's your process like for making videos? I know, in Array 7, you were talking to him, and you said that you like choose the music first, typically.
Um, yeah, well, I guess I could talk about like my process before I talk about that because that is like tangentially related, like
Okay.
down the line. Um, uh, Man, it's hard.
I can come back to it. I mean,
No. I can talk about like the technical aspects of it, but that's all stuff that you can find on YouTube already in like way better detail than I could ever go into. Like
got
the
it.
actual edit, actual answer of like how I make a video or how I edit, it's just like I think it's just underwhelming. Like I can't really
Really?
explain myself better than just like I just do it or
Yeah.
or like I imagine how something should look and then I just make it look like that. Eh, this might sound like really pretentious or lame coming from someone who mostly edits like videos about video games,
Yeah.
but like the way I edit is just to feel it out, like to just use my intuition, sense of like timing.
I think it's fair.
I have
Yeah.
like an obsession with like good filmmaking that plays a big part into it. There's a vibe that I'm aiming for, and it's like very difficult to explain how to do. Actually, it's like a little bit like playing a video game like TF2. Actually, it's like there's the mechanical skills that you can master, like aim or positioning. That's like kind of like how to operate an editing program.
Yeah.
But game sense, that's just something that you're not going to be able to learn in the same way that you can learn how to use Premiere. Like you just have to play the game to understand how to use game sense, and that's how like editing is for me. It's just I watch a lot of movies, a lot of music videos, I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I take really heavy notice of how it's all like constructed in like a non-mechanical way, and then I try and apply that like vibe or that feeling to my videos when I edit them.
I think that's fair. One thing that I've been kind of going for now, or one thing I've started to do for myself, as a side note, I literally have my video process written down because Cyber Wizard asked for it, and it's literally 12 steps.
Okay.
But like, if here, I'll just really quickly. I get the
Yeah,
idea,
yeah.
then I go, and then okay, that's step 0 is the idea.
Yeah,
Big one.
right.
Step 1, first script. Step 2, get footage, aka the item or whatever. Play with the item a lot. You play a season. Step 3, categorize all of the gameplay into like with descriptions. And then 4 is rewrite the script, possibly with new information, or to reword for flow, or completely
Wait,
rework.
you said rewrite the script. You didn't say
Correct.
writing the script
I said
beforehand, though.
rewrite I said to write the script. That was step 1 was the first script. Like basically my
Oh,
first
really?
thoughts.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I missed
And
that.
then
Sorry.
I rewrite the script pretty much every time. Because I'm like I want my initial ideas. So like say if I'm like when I write on the bison, for example, I had like some thoughts that I had, and I was just like. And I was like, yeah, I think you can do this. And then I was like, no, this item is so much worse than I thought when I like wrote the like. So I rewrote the script, and I rewrite the script basically every time. And then I record audio for the video. Then I may get set up all my A-roll and add a track just for text that specifies what every single B-roll thing that I need. So that's step 7. So like which is like SFM or whatever. Then step 8 is I either get all the B-roll that I have. And then step 9 is I hunt for all the examples that I need. Or like examples or for SFM or whatever. So like for example, if I need a clip of me telefragging someone with the Eureka effect, that I probably don't have that, and now I have to go fish for that clip in pubs for like 2 hours. And then steps 10, like that's like the third to last step, is to add music, and then and then step 11 is I double check the flow and remove stuff as needed, and then I upload. And so like
Interesting.
but one thing that I've changed actually is I've moved music. Since I've sent that, I've changed music to be one of the earlier steps, because I now like do themes in my videos, or I want to do themes. So like the upcoming, like the engineer, like how to play engineer in sixes, my theme is going to be like 90s shooters. So like my music is, I think right now I have stuff from like Unreal Tournament, Doom 1 and 2, Duke Nukem, the first Half-Life, stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, theming it is good. I've done that in a few videos, like with the stock engineer weapons with the Halo music.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever really gone further than that. I just kind of usually I usually use that editing as like a flow dictator. It's not really like as much of a theming kind of thing. If I were to describe my process for making a video, it's always very subject dependent. But if you just imagine like what might be that like the average typical Uncle Dane video, like, yeah, I usually just choose the music first. This is after I've already like written the script and recorded it.
Yeah.
But I choose the music after that, and then I try my best to edit. This is before I even apply any footage to it, by the way.
Yeah.
And I usually try and choose the music to edit around the beats or the vibe of the music, because like I said before, I take a lot of my inspiration from films. In films, they have composers, obviously, that dictate the emotion,
and it
or the
lines
flow
up
of the scene.
basically perfectly. Yeah,
it lines up perfectly because like they're scored for that film. But I don't have that, so I have to kind of like reverse engineer my own score in that way, and that's why I try and edit around the music more than anything.
I started to do that with this most recent video. So like one of the best things that I did, I think, was when I had like the map transitions, or I went from like say a map to a map, or I went from a map to a separate topic, like talking about 5CP or whatever. I always try to get it to like line up with a specific part in the song, or like at the beginning of a song. And that was the first time I like really did that. And I was like, it actually like, because I've tried to do it before, it just hasn't really worked out, because like later it'll get like desynced, and I'm like, but this time it worked out pretty well, and it was so satisfying.
No, it's super important. I think that achieving that feeling that the background music is somehow composed for the video, even though it's like actually just from an old Pokemon game or something. I think that's super important, because I think that when people compliment me, like you earlier in the podcast that I listened to complimented me on my editing, I think that what you're mostly referring to is that aspect of the video, the music being like a part of the experience, because in reality, I personally don't think that I'm really that technically skilled of an editor. I kind of only really like to utilize the bare minimum when it comes to that. And for the most part, I subscribe to the idea that like more editing does not equal better editing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people
I had to learn
who
that.
take up editing do. Yeah. It's something that I think that maybe some people go through, but I think from the beginning, I was like, I think I was probably, maybe it's due to laziness or something, but I was always just like, no, it doesn't make it better. It just makes it like,
sometimes less
more
is
technically
more.
impressive. Yeah. So I typically just don't try and overexert myself in that aspect.
Yeah. So, I mean, you definitely have come up with some like certain things that I've noticed, and I'm like, that's really smart. Like one of my favorite edits that you do is when you're using the Eureka effect, you'll like start to teleport back to spawn or whatever, but then you'll cut to another clip of you teleporting somewhere with the Eureka effect. And I'm
I teleport into like a different game entirely.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude,
I love that.
dude, that's such a good like I love that so much. Like I never thought about that. I was like, dude, that's genius. But
yeah, ending it's super important. It's something that like not a lot of people do, and when they do it, I notice it heavily, and it makes watching the video like more aesthetically pleasing. Is like making sure that clips end on the end of sentences, or
is also nice.
making sure that clips like make sense to what you're saying, so that like when you're talking about a specific thing, like the background footage actually has some sort of relevance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is also like something that I've tried to get better and better at, and I think it's because I started I actually had a process, like I didn't write it down or anything, but I had a process very early on that was basically like I would write the script first, like that was very first thing I would do, and then I would go out and accumulate footage according to what I had in the script.
Yep.
And that is hell. It's hellish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I understand.
Because coaxing people to do what you want them to do is impossible.
Yeah.
And eventually you just get sick and tired of it, and you're like, you know what, fuck it, I don't have to get relevant clip for this. I've been doing this for 3 hours. No, it hasn't happened. I'm just gonna put some bullshit here, and it hurts the video. I talked to Lazy Purple when he came back, and I was like, your videos are so good, what do you do? What is your secret? And he told me that he collects footage, 100% of his footage first, and then he writes the script around the footage. And I was like, all right, I'll try that. And what do you know, it makes the videos so much better. Yeah. And it also makes it so much easier to edit, because you already have everything. You just have to put it where it goes. It's almost like Jenga, or not Jenga, Tetris. It's like you just put the clip where it goes, and then you're like, oh, I'm done. And now I only have to do the memes. I only have to put like funny edits now.
Nice.
It's so easy. And I was like, why wasn't I doing this before? Before it was just like I felt like I was just doing it backwards for so long. And it's really funny to get to the point where you're like, oh man, it was all in front of me the whole time. I don't know why I
I've
wasn't
learned
doing
that
it.
I've been doing it backwards too, because that's what I do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I said that's why I said like I almost always rewrite the script. Like for the
Mhm.
engineer stuff, honestly, I'm gonna be like completely real. The engineer in sixes video was like one of the easiest videos I ever made. I have
Mhm.
like
Well,
so
because you already
much.
had all the
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I have like like 600 gigabytes of just me playing engineer in sixes. So like it
Mhm.
is not super difficult to grab relevant footage most
Yeah,
of the time.
exactly.
Sometimes it's like the main thing is like when I was getting closer to the end of the video, I remember I specifically talk about like denying bombing soldiers with the like the mini sentry in my shotgun, and I'm like, well, I don't have like another clip that I would want to use of this, but I've been doing it all video anyway, so it should be fine. And then you have some commenter that I had one guy comment there was like that you're not denying them right there, and I'm like, what are you talking? God, did you not see it in the rest of the video? Like, dang it! But like, uh, uh but no, I do think you joking. I remember in your random crits video, you did the Pokemon thing, and you're like, and you like it said it as like a joke, but it was so true. You're like, oh, you need an example. You need to see it. And I was just like, dude, 100%. You're right. You're right. I need to see with my own eyes.
Yeah, yeah. I knew I try and I try and like disconnect myself from the product as much as I can. I feel like what has helped me, and this is, I don't think I've ever like uh acknowledged this out loud, but I think maybe what helps me is that I'm very good at pretending like I'd never seen the video before while I'm editing it.
I literally wrote in the top of my engineer in sixes video, I literally wrote in all caps, bolded, most people who watch this will have no idea what I'm talking about, so I need to
Yeah.
explain everything. Which is why in every time I get to a map, I talk about the mid. I don't know if any of
Yes.
you noticed that, but I did that every single time. And the
I
reason
didn't
being,
notice it, and that's a good thing.
Yep.
Like it's
Yeah.
just good to bring people up to speed on what you were
yeah.
talking about in that moment.
I didn't notice, and I was playing on the team. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was just.
But yeah,
you go ahead.
I'd say like one of the worst habits I think that I tended to get into early on that I think I broke on accident is just getting used to the video and then not noticing flaws because I was just so used to it.
Correct.
I was like, oh, this is just the way the video goes. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you like back up from it and you're like, all right, pretend you've never seen this video before and you're experiencing it for the first time. And then you watch it and you're like, all right, that part was confusing actually.
Yeah, one of the big
I
things.
should probably change that.
Yeah, one of the big things now that I have done in the past, ever since I've started playing competitive TF2, was I will literally like, Broccoli is probably annoyed at it at this point, but I will always like literally each video has like 4 versions. And so I'll send the video, I'll be like done with the video or almost done with it, and then I will send it to like my team to be like, hey, can at least like one of you watch this to make sure that this is like fine. And every single time they notice there's something wrong with it, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did this, and then I go back and I fix it before like it actually gets put out.
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, the only thing like in that, I mean, for the like the footage thing, the big thing for me, I just want to bring up. So when I was doing the bison video, and I found out about this later from Grape Juice, who was me and Broccoli's soldier mentor. He's an invite, and he it told me, so I was talking about how the bison every once in a while will randomly do double damage when you hit someone. And the reason why, and he told me, and he linked me to it, was that if you shoot someone diagonally, if it hits their hitbox diagonally at specific tick like times within ticks, it will hit them twice for every tick, and you'll do double damage. And I had it happen one time, and it didn't like I clipped it, but then I wasn't able to because at the time I was using Shadowplay instead of OBS, and now I only use OBS because it's super reliable. And like I was just like, I was so mad because I wrote it into the script because it was important. I was like, hey, if it actually did like okay damage, it would probably be good, but like I just couldn't. And then like I like fished for that clip for like hours. It was like 4 or 5 hours.
Like looking at frame by frame damage numbers, like where's the double damage?
Yeah, well, I was looking for any damage above like 60, and I was just like, because I think I did like, and I was like, it was so bad. It was just a huge waste of time, and I was like, oh, I'll just say that I'd lost my footage, and then I did, but the thing is it does make the video worse. And so realistically, I should have just reworked that area or not included it because it's
Slightly
really,
worse. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so there are some things that are just like, oh man, I have to compromise on this.
And that's the big thing though, as well, is that
But you can eliminate that stuff ahead of time
absolutely.
by planning accordingly. And that's, I think, the thing that you just learn over time is just how to do that.
I mean, the biggest critic to a video is always going to be yourself. Like, I mean, with Broccoli's video, he was just saying, I kind of hate this video now because he just made the one on the quick fix and how he thinks the quick fix is super weak, and I agree with him. But I was just like, he was like, I hate this video now, and then I watched it. I was like, this video is great. I really like this. And so it's just one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even really think about that. And he was like, okay.
Yeah, it's hard to remind yourself, and I always kind of run into this as well, is that like people are gonna like it. Like they're not scrutinizing over every like millisecond like you are.
Absolutely.
So, and there's a reason, I think, why I don't write down my process or exactly have like a specific way of doing things, is because I'm kind of afraid of my own perfectionism. I know that it's a trap that'll just get you stuck in limbo.
Absolutely.
And so I try to actively avoid dwelling on something for more than it needs to be. I try my best to be super aware of like, am I spending more time than I need to be spending on this one stupid thing?
The big thing for me in that has been SFM, actually, because I'm not good at SFM.
Brave man, I can't do it. I can't do it.
I literally I learned SFM to do work for RGL, and then I started doing it for Broccoli for his stream stuff. And then I was like, okay. And I learned SFM to do my own thumbnails, and then I can barely animate. And so like I have like a behind the scenes on how I edit every video, and like it's so funny because like some of them there are like I will like frame it so that way it works, but then as soon as you go like zoom out like 1%, it is absolutely completely broken. And I'm like, but like the thing is like it's gotten to the point though for a lot of that where there are issues with it, but I'm like, it is, one, only like 10 people are gonna notice this, and two, like, yeah, I definitely caught myself on it a lot before. I was like, no, this needs to be perfect, and I was like, it doesn't matter as much anymore. So since you were talking about like focusing on the memes, how do you like formulate your humor? Like your humor in like, does it just come naturally, or like do you like have?
Well,
like,
I write.
Go ahead.
I write them down. Are you talking about like edits or what?
In general, like I mean, they can be like, for example, in your engineer, like how to play battle engineer, like when you're talking about like, has this ever happened to you? I was dying laughing. I thought it was so funny. Like,
well, here's the thing. I think I remember what happened was I had those clips. I had like more than, I think I had 2 or 3 clips in a row where a medic abandoned me. And I was like, has this ever does this ever happen to you? And I immediately thought of the Tim Robinson sketch. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I should put that clip. And then I looked up the clip, and then I was like, oh, he says it once normal, and then he says it in unhinged the second time. So I was like, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'll put that in. So it just was happenstance, and it just happened because I was like associating a normal thing with like a meme. I think that that's probably a generalized approach to most like little edits like that, is like it starts off as like a regular sentence, and I'm like, oh, that kind of reminds me of this. I should put that instead, you know?
Yeah, with your video process as well, with you getting footage first, that does explain like the blue Gatorade joke as well. You're like, oh, name a blue food, like that. I thought that was hilarious. Like I know,
well,
like
during the like script writing process, I'm looking at the clip and I'm noticing, oh, this medic's got a weird medigun name. I should bring it up. I don't know. That would be funny.
Yeah, no, that was like, as I'm sure as a viewer they probably like don't really notice, but like as an editor I was like, dude, that's hilarious. Like I don't know, because the big thing for me, okay,
I am obsessed, by the way, with the editing joke of just having like a photo. I don't know why. It's just so funny. It will always be not unfunny. That's a bad way of saying that.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
If you just like cut to a like, it's like, oh, this is like, oh, well edited video, and then it just cuts to like a photo, like no effort put in whatsoever. It always makes me laugh.
It reminds me of like the SpongeBob where they cut to like the really gross close
Oh
up.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
that was another edit
that was
I put in.
yeah,
was
that
a
was
gross
that
up.
was right after that. Has this ever happened? Or right between right before he
That's
yells
a
it.
long that's a long time coming joke as well, because I've always wanted to put a gross up in a video. I just never had an opportunity.
Oh man.